A couple weeks ago, I made a video gushing about Severance. People have been preaching the gospel. Woo! About how good the show was, and I finally decided to give it a whirl to see if it lives up to the hype or if I would be in there busting that myth. There was no myths busted, only nuts. I fell in love with the show, so I made a whole video just kind of talking about how it exceeded all of my wildest expectations placed upon it, and how I was catching up for Season 2. I caught up, and now Season 2 just finished, and what a remarkable ride it's been. If I had to sum it up with one word, it'd be this. Because there is no words to express it, just big smiles. I fucking love Severance. I think it is probably the best written show I've ever watched. And I don't say that lightly. It is a top 10 show for me of all time. I don't know where I put it in the top 10 because it hasn't fully finished yet, but I really think this is something special. I usually don't care if people dislike things that I like. I'll make jokes about it from time to time, but really at the end of the day, you like what you like. However, if there is anyone out there that dislikes Severance, I gotta raise a big eyebrow at it. I don't know how that's possible. I think the show just does everything right. Everything this show has is executed to the highest possible level. I think the characters are among the best cast of any show I've watched, where every character feels interesting, fleshed out. There's no characters that I think are bad or weak or shitty. Everything in this show, I think, works. The only thing I could see people making a complaint about is that it is often slow-moving, and many times you can see that they are setting up for a cliffhanger to keep you hooked. Because this show is like Fint, and this Fint's got me moving like claymation. It has you hooked, and it knows that, so it plays with it by constantly building and then ending on a cliffhanger at the end of each episode. Which is a really smart tactic. It's very effective, but I definitely can recognize that it would grind some people's asshole for sure. So there are two complaints that I think could be reasonable, but at the end of the day, I feel like no matter how you spin it, this is just such a solid show that I really think no matter what your taste is, you will probably like Severance. I'm pretty confident in saying that. Now, I've already said pretty much everything I want to say about Severance as a whole, so I want to talk specifically about Season 2 now, but without getting into any spoilers. I recently I've been doing a big spoiler warning than getting into spoilers. For this, I'm not even going to bother doing that. I might just do a whole stream going over Severance and spoilers. Anyway, let's talk about Season 2. I think it's another slapper. This claps again. But I do think it's actually pretty different from Season 1. Season 1 injected a lot of humor and a lot of comedy throughout the season, despite being obviously very serious. Season 2, there is still comedic moments and there is still comedy, but it's not as prevalent as it was in Season 1, where you'd have some zingers flying here or there, especially with a character like Dylan. Well, Season 2, so much has happened to these characters, so much is going on with the innies, that now it would almost feel out of place if it still maintained that same DNA of them kind of being jovial and joking all the time. Well, not even all the time. It's not like it. The show was never a comedy, but it had really good comedic writing to it. With a character like Rickon. Well, in Season 2, yes, there are still jokes and comedic moments, but it is much more serious because so much has happened to these characters. So a character like Dylan, who was, firing from the hip with jokes here and there, well, he's going through a really very confusing character arc with his innie and the life that he is now privy to with his outie. And he is now really struggling with that, and he is going through so much, so now he is not making a ton of jokes. None of the characters are, because shit is popping off. And I'm not saying this is a complaint or anything that, they didn't Thor Love and Thunder this bitch, where they just go hog wild, all eggs in the basket of comedy because it worked in Season 1, so let's just ride this horse till it croaks, dies, and everyone hates it. I'm happy they didn't overstay their welcome with as many jokes as they are making in Season 1, even though I'm still really confident they could have made it work. It makes sense that this wouldn't be as lighthearted at times, and why the characters are much more serious, because they have all been through so much, and they and we as viewers have learned so much too, that it really would feel out of place if they were kind of the exact same as they were in Season 1. So I appreciate that they're developing, they're evolving, and we're seeing that. I think it's a good thing. I don't have any complaints about season 2 or anything. The only thing I would say is that in season 2 there is one episode that I was kind of on. It had tones of mid, and it was the episode with Cobell. Again, I'm avoiding spoilers, but it's not that I thought the episode was bad or anything. It was fine, but I really felt like it didn't really bring a ton to the table. It felt kind of stagnant. Like, yes, we're learning more about Cobell, but it dragged it out over the course of that whole episode when I felt it was kind of unnecessary. Like, it felt like the things they wanted to get across, they were things that could have been part of another episode here and there. Like, I don't think it needed its own whole episode for it. But it's, again, it wasn't even like a bad episode per se. But one of the reasons I feel like it was a little underwhelming is because Lumen is set up as this, like, almost omniscient evil company. And now we're seeing a different piece of Lumen. And it still feels like the whole company is like 6 people. And, like, that's kind of something that I've felt about Lumen as a whole in general, where you only ever really see like a handful of people. Everything else is like a mystery. But it always has this like looming presence that it's always watching. Lumen, they got eyes on you when you know, they see you when you're sleeping. They know when you're awake. You know, they know if you've been bad or good. Lumen is always there, and they have people everywhere. They can always fuck you up if need be if you fall out of line. But then when I see something like the Cobell episode, I really get the feeling like maybe they don't. Maybe there really is just like 6 people here, and if they need like hired muscle, they go on Fiverr and send like a car. Like, it just didn't give me this sense of, wow, Lumen is fucking, whoa, they're big. It's BlackRock. They got people and things everywhere. Which, again, isn't really like a complaint per se. I just felt like that episode made it feel a little less than. In season 1, I didn't think there was a single episode that was anything below a 9.5 out of 10. Season 2, with that Cobell episode, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. Still great, like still good, still fine. But I wanted to point that out. I still think season 2 is amazing. I think Severance is an absolute must-watch for literally everybody. Milchick continues to be my favorite character. In season 2, he gets to spread his wings even more. He is an absolute scene stealer when he is on screen. I also love how they bring his use of big words, his vernacular, as a story element to his character here, where now Lumen itself is complaining about Milchick's use of big words, where he'll use needlessly complicated terms to describe simple things. And it's fun watching him try and, like, dumb it down and not say things like devour feculence. But maybe he will say devour feculence out of spite because it's who he is. That is what Milchick does. And Milchick, he'll bust it out on you sometimes too. I just love that character. I think he is extraordinary. Severance just continues to be the only show that actually has me lock in while watching it on the edge of my seat, literally talking out loud and like emoting for some of the twists and build-up climactic moments. I am just so invested in this world. It is masterfully crafted. Again, season 2 I think is shot beautifully. It's an amazing, amazing season. Great writing. I love the direction that it's going. I can't wait for season 3. I can't reiterate this enough. I do think this show is a must-watch. So yeah, I liked Severance season 2. Severance as a whole, one of my favorite shows ever. So good. That's about it. See ya.